Hi guys, and welcome to a special ANZAC Day edition of Falcons TV.
Duckworth says thank you.
Our special guest today is a legend here at West Perth.
Duckworth can kick a goal from here. 80 metres out is John Duckworth. Look at it go.
Starting his football career in 1970, he played 58 games for Fitzroy in the VFL, 105 here at West Perth, 42 games for Central Districts in the Sandful, as well as representing Western Australia and South Australia.
Sparks kicks to centre half forward. Duckworth goes up and takes the mark for West Perth.
1970 was also the year he was called upon to serve for his country, being sent to the Vietnam War representing the Australian Army.
Flung to the ground. Two captains showing what the game is all about. Look at that. There's something for him.
I'm talking, of course, of John Duckworth. Let's hear what he has to say. John, thanks for taking the time to join us today. I want to take you back for a moment, back to 1970. You moved to Puckapanul in Victoria to start army training before being called upon for national service. Although that opened the door for you to play to begin your career in the VFL. What corps in the army did you go to, and what was your role there?
Well, I was, like as you say, I did my training and went from Dudin, my hometown, to Puckapanul and did 10, 12 weeks training at Puckapanul, and then you had to apply for what service you want to get into, whether it be infantry, artillery, engineers, and I was lucky enough I dominated artillery, so I got into artillery and had to go to Sydney from Puckapanul to continue my training there, and that's where it all started from, really, with although while I was at Fitzroy, while I was at Puckapanul, I played a practice game against North Melbourne, played on Barry Cable, and Kevin Murray, the great Kevin Murray, came and watched the game, and they asked me down for a run at Fitzroy, and I went down and played a practice game, and they signed me up for $200.
Excellent. So you only managed 11 games in your first season at Fitzroy before being deployed to Vietnam. Tell us a bit about that first season.
Yeah, well, that was 1970. I got picked to play in the first game of the year, and that was when Fitzroy played at Waverley Park in front of the Queen, but I wasn't allowed to go to that because it was our march out from Puckapanul. So I went on up to Sydney, and 4 weeks into the season, a bloke called Peter Wood, who was the fullback of Fitzroy, got injured and he retired. So I was the first, probably one of the first ones that used to be a fly-in, fly-out footballer, and I used to fly down to Melbourne every Friday night, play Saturday, have a few beers Saturday night, and then fly back to Sydney Sunday to continue my training. And I played the 11 games, as you say, 11 games straight, and then I had to go to Vietnam.
John, what were the feelings like when you first got your letter of national service?
Well, I think it was October. I was shearing Dad's sheep at the farm at Dudin, and a letter came saying that I had to go and have a medical to see if I was fit enough to go to do my training first of all before I went to war. But like there was a heap of guys from the district that all had to go into Narrogin and do their medicals, and we were all saying we had broken noses and asthma and every other thing under the sun to try and get out. But in the finish they just said, well, you're fit and you will be going on the 19th of January, or no, the 21st of January to Puckapanul, and I thought, oh well, so be it. If that's how it is, I'll go and do it. But Mum and Dad were a bit upset about it, and I could understand why that was, but I was happy enough to do my time, so I went and did it.
By the time you were sent to Vietnam, it was quite late in the war. What can you remember leading into knowing that you were going to be doing a tour of duty?
Oh, well, it was probably pretty hard because my dad didn't really want me to go because he was a 2nd 28th Ratchetshire Brook, and he got captured at Ruin Ridge in El Alamein and spent 3.5 years in a German prisoner of war camp. So you can understand his thinking that he didn't want me to go to Vietnam, but I thought if I was going to do 2 years, I might as well go and do 12 months over there at the funny farm, and away we went. And you know, it was you didn't know what to expect. We were flown into Saigon, and then we were flown down to Nui Dat, and that was our base at Nui Dat, and that's where we did all our deployments from, was Nui Dat.
Yeah, right. It's difficult for those of us that haven't been in a war zone to fathom what it must have been like. What are some of your memories and recollections of Vietnam?
Oh, you know, some of it was pretty tough. Because what we used to do was, being in artillery, they'd Chinook us in with big Chinook helicopters with our big howitzers underneath, and they'd drop us into an area which we'd call a support base, and then there were 6 guns in that position. We'd put 6 guns in there, and then as the infantry were formed, that there was Viet Cong in the area, so they'd start patrolling all that area. If they get into contact, well, they'd call on us, and we'd fire in. So I always said I was a 9-mile sniper, so I wasn't really too close to the action. But you know, we did get mortared a couple of times, but it was better good luck than good management, because the Viet Cong never had any sights on their mortars, and they'd just fire them and hope they got us. But you know, some of it was pretty horrendous. You know, you lose a couple of mates, and you see where, like Agent Orange, what effect that had on a lot of blokes. It probably affected me a bit, because you were out in the jungle where you were fighting, and they used to fly across with big planes to defoliate the whole of the area so that you could see better, and we got rained with Agent Orange. But I came out of it pretty well. I got a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder when I came home, and everybody thought I was mad when I was playing footy, but I was madder when I come back from Vietnam. Yeah.
So John, how did your army commitments conflict with your football training?
I suppose, like, I used to train on my own in Sydney, but like Fitzroy didn't know it, but during the week you'd have the army would play the Air Force, and the army would play the Navy, and I used to play in those games on a Wednesday, but like you wouldn't be able to do it now. But that was part of my training, that when you had to train on your own in Sydney and keep yourself fit enough to go to Melbourne and play, because you have a look at the guys that I played on in my first 11 games. I think my first game I played on, a guy, Phil Smith from North Melbourne, he kicked 3 goals, threw me into the fence, and I got carried off on a stretcher. The next week I played on Alex Jezelenko, and he kicked 10 goals, because I was playing full back. He kicked 10. The next week I played on Peter McKenna from Collingwood, and he kicked 6. The next week we're due to play Hawthorn. I was to play on the great Peter Hudson, and it was pissing down rain. I thought, you bloody beauty. And I kept in the 3, so I thought, oh shit, I've done a good job. And then I went to Vietnam. It was too tough.
Right. One of the things you often hear and read about is the treatment of some of our soldiers when they return to Australia from Vietnam. What was it like when you came home?
Yeah, it was pretty horrendous, because all of the objectives and, you know, the people that didn't want us fighting in Vietnam, well, you know, it's a hard situation, because we need the Yanks and the Yanks need us. So wherever there was a conflict, and it's still the same now with Afghanistan and all that the Yanks are in, so we've got to go in and be part of it, because if anything happened to Australia, we'd rely on the Yanks to come and help us. But I remember we had a march through Sydney, and when we came home, and all the greenies and that were spitting on us and booing us and throwing crap at us, and yeah, it wasn't nice, but you know, you'd been away for 12 months supporting your country, and to cop that, it was a bit tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you get involved with ANZAC Day ceremonies?
Oh my word, I didn't for a long time, but then as my dad got older, he used to march with the 2nd 28th down here all the time, and when he got a bit older, I started to march with Dad, and then I wanted him to keep marching and go in a Jeep, but he said, if I can't walk, I won't do it. So, you know, that was a bit tough for him, but I march every year. I used to march here in Perth, but now I live in Mandurah, so I march with a group in Mandurah, the Mandurah Murray Vietnam Vets mob, and we've got a big, what would you call it, gathering of us in Mandurah that we all Vietnam vets in the Mandurah Murray Vietnam Vets Association down there. I think there's about 300 members, and we meet once a month and have barbecues and all that sort of thing, so it's pretty good. There's just a group of us all together. They go on tours. We go to Bruce Rock each year for the Vietnam Vets Week in Bruce Rock. We go to Coolan for the Coolan Bush races and just travel around as a group, so it's pretty good.
With more and more women being engaged overseas, ANZAC Day seems to hold a lot more meaning for a lot more Australians. As a veteran, it must be humbling to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, you have a look at all Dad's mob. If Dad was still alive, I think he'd be 96 or 97. So all of those guys from the Second World War are now nearly all gone. So now it's up to us as Vietnam vets and Korean and Afghan soldiers that we've got to keep on the tradition going to keep ANZAC alive. But I think the younger people of Australia now have embraced it more than when I first came home to now, like 40, 50 years later. And you know, to see the crowds up at Kings Park, it's amazing to see what the young people of Australia have embraced it. It's really good.
Yeah, no, it is. John, thanks for your time. Thanks for your service to this country and to our great club at West Perth as well. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Make my way back.